So this one says, I bought an expensive car yesterday and now I'm regretting it. Having a little buyer's remorse. How did I do? Did I make a big mistake? I'm 22 years old and a big car guy. Yesterday, me and my mother were picking up her car from service when I saw a 2015 Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT on the lot with 62K miles and a lemon title for front suspension noise when turning, quote unquote, for $43,000. I drove the car and fell in love with its V8 rumble and an SUV comfort all in one car. Anyway, I negotiated and got $22K for my trade-in. I owed $21,300, so the rest was put towards the Jeep. So I'm guessing like $700. They wouldn't budge on the price. So I asked them if they could put new Pirellis on and they agreed in writing, which is, he says, $550 a tire. Anyway, I put $3K down and financed the rest for 72 months. Planning on making way bigger payments at 4.4% interest, which amounts to about $640 a month for 72 months. After sleeping on it, I'm having a bit of buyer's remorse and thinking I made a big mistake. Should I attempt to reverse the deal? Can I reverse the deal? Please help.
Yeah. You want to know why you have buyer's remorse? It's because you spent $40,000 on a whim over this dumb obsession over cars. Like, when I hear people say that they're a big car guy, like it either tells me that you're a multimillionaire and you actually have a lot of nice cars, or that you're broke and you're constantly spending all of your money fixing this car that only really works half the time. Like car obsessions are one of those things. Like, I get it. Like, cars are nice. And when you get into a nice car, like it feels really good, but like it really only serves to impress other people. And it just is, to me, it's just such a big waste of money, especially if like you're one of those car guys who constantly works on their car. You can always find excuses to spend money because you need to fix something. And before you know it, you've put in like 50 grand into like a little Honda Civic that keeps falling apart on you. Like, it sucks because this person's 22 years old and is probably like into the car scene and sees all of the buddies making these bad decisions of buying cars, but they're having a good time. No one really talks about the financial part of it. And you wake up 10, 20 years later and you're like, man, I just wasted my 20s on this obsession, you know?
Yeah. And when I heard lemon title, I just knew they made a bad decision. Like, I would never, they shouldn't even be allowed to sell those. Right. Yeah. And also you said you were there to pick up your mother's car. Exactly. And all of a sudden you just like fell into like a $43,000 loan. Like, you have to make better decisions around your purchases. That was 100% an impulse purchase, which is why it's so important to take your time with a big purchase, because had he, maybe driven the problem was he got in the car. He should never have got in it, but he took it for a drive and then made the decision. He should have taken it for a drive and then maybe thought about it for a day or two. Probably would have just came to that conclusion himself that it wasn't worth the $40,000 he financed on a lemon car. And probably would have just said, nope, I'm not doing that. And we wouldn't even be having this conversation here today. But I think cars, like you said, people love to impress with cars. It's a way we do it. And it's become so normalized in our society to have such a high car payment because you have to, right? But when I separated myself from realizing that cars are not an investment, it's literally something that goes down in value. So by the time, literally probably a year after he'd buy this, that car is probably worth like, I don't know SRTs. I don't know much about this, but I'm guessing it's definitely going to fall significantly. And then he's going to owe more than the car is even worth. Yeah. So that's also a piece to this. Like, if you want nice cars, I know people have nice cars. Like, sometimes if you want a nice car, great. If you can afford it, I'm guessing this 22-year-old can't. If you're going to finance $40K is my guess.
Yeah. Like, okay. Like, personally, like my wife and I will probably never finance a car again. And like, we're going to drive our cars until the wheels fall off. And then we're going to go to the dealership or private sale and buy a nice used car. Cause to me, that just makes the most sense. Save up for it, buy it in cash. But I understand that that's not where everyone is at financially. It's also not maybe feasible for everyone depending on your situation. Sometimes you do need to get into a car. I mentioned this before. I do really like the Money Guys. They have a really good rule of thumb for buying a car, and they call it the 23-8 rule. And so that's 20% down payment financed for no longer than 3 years, and it takes up no more than 8% of your monthly income. So you got to ask yourself, is $640 a month, is that only 8% of my income? If it is, you're maybe not too far in the red, but you didn't put 20% down, that's for sure. And you are certainly not financing this over 3 years. So this is probably not the right decision for you. it's a long shot, but I would go back to the general manager like as soon as you can of that dealership and say, hey, look, I'm 22 years old, really stupid, really made a bad decision. Can you please like do something about this? Because you're going to end up underwater in this, or you're going to end up sinking so much money trying to fix it. And it's going to be impossible to sell in private sale, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I just did was, like I said, I think I mentioned earlier in this episode, you know, I bought a car when I graduated college and I just had it until a few months back. And I only had like a 3-year payment on it back then, maybe 3 or 4. And so I paid it off. And during that time saved and saved. So I had 7-8 years to save for a new car, and then was able to buy a new car, you know, with cash at that point. That's how you do it. But the problem is too many people continue just to get new cars, and they just always have a big payment. So buy something modest and then, you know, save up over time. Use that car until you drive it into the ground, and then save some money on the side so you can buy something in the future. Like you said, not everybody can do that. Not, you know, people have different payments and are different parts of their life, you know, but I think that it's important to realize that the car goes down in value, and it's literally to get you from point A to point B, and nobody else is making your payments. So please don't try to impress anybody with a piece of metal. The information, opinions, and recommendations provided on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and do not constitute professional financial advice. Any financial decisions you make based on the content of this podcast are your responsibility. We strongly recommend consulting with a licensed financial advisor or other qualified professional before making any significant financial decisions. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that we are not liable for any financial outcomes.